Week 0, baby. College football this weekend. This Saturday, we got some games, baby. It's here.
We're finally here.
We got some college football this weekend. Looking forward to it. I know it's a pretty bare slate. Obviously, we get the Noles playing, against Georgia Tech. We've talked about that game for a couple weeks.
Just a little
now.
appetizer weekend.
Just a little app getting us ready for obviously the big week 1 next week. It's here. So we're here today to break down who we think is going to make it to the end, to make ourselves either look super smart or super dumb. We did that last year, and I feel like we're going to go chalky, but hey, it's the first year of the 12-team format, and like I was telling you earlier, breaking down this thing, trying to figure out, like it's like you're in the committee room when I was doing it anyway, because it's like, okay, do I go for the best matchup here? Do I want to see this first round game and, blah, 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 so picking the 4 is kind of easy because that's going to be your conference winners. That's going to be who you think is going to win, the 4 leagues. And then are the teams who come in the runner ups, are they going to get in, or are they kind of like on the outside looking in? Do they drop down? How many rematches are you going to have? All that stuff. So, I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this thing, and we'll break down, like I say, each conference and the top 12 teams and who we think is going to win the national title. Then we'll do a little sleeper teams who could maybe sneak into the 12-team playoffs. What top 10 team is going to bust out and not make it to the playoff? We'll talk a little schedule, and then obviously we'll give a little breakdown for that Noles Georgia Tech game over in Ireland. So I guess you want to lead it off with your number 1 seed and who you think is going to be the number 1 team in the country at the end of the year, buddy? Or you want me to go? It's up to you, bud.
You should go first. I'm sure we have the same team.
Yeah, you think so?
Almost
I don't know.
No-brainer. Go for it.
I don't know.
It's 1 or 2 teams.
Yeah, exactly. My number 1 team, my number 1 seed, who I think will be number 1 when the bracket is unveiled, is I think your Big Ten champion, Ohio State. So you might have Georgia, but I got the Buckeyes as the 1 seed. I think their schedule obviously has got some beef to it. They're going to have to play Oregon this year, who is another team who I know we both like, who we both probably are going to have in the 12-team playoff as well. I think Ohio State, we talked about that defense last year was just stupid, ridiculous. The big question mark was Kyle McCord at quarterback. They've got Will Howard.
He wasn't your question mark. He was my question mark.
He only led him.
You were a fan.
He only led them to an 11-1 season, but I mean
that's not saying much with that team.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
He couldn't get it done against the team they needed to beat.
He couldn't get it done against Michigan for sure. But, it was a team effort. He threw the pick late, but
yeah,
they blew it. Michigan was obviously the better team last year anyways. But, no, again, you bring in Will Howard, who, in my opinion, is just as good or better, and they're about the same. We're going to find out what he elevates that offense to, but the running backs are crazy good. You get Judkins, who leaves Ole Miss, comes up there with Trayvon Henderson. You got the receivers. You got the young Jeremiah Smith stepping in. You've got Ibeka, who's been there for, several years now. Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, those guys. So, they got weapons galore. So, Will Howard, I like Ohio State to be the team to come out of the Big Ten and be the 1 seed. So, who you got, buddy?
Dogs? I got the Dogs. Number 1, like I say, surprise. They got a little tougher schedule this year, but
they finally do. They finally do. I'm glad.
They finally got a decent schedule. I still think as long as they have Carson Beck, Kirby, and all those guys coming back, as long as they stop speeding and getting arrested, they should be fine. That week 1 game against Clemson, that's a measuring stick for Clemson, I think, more than for Georgia, just because Clemson playing in the ACC. This is going to be a gauge to see how good Clemson is this season as well. But I think Georgia's going to be my number 1. They play in Atlanta against Clemson, Tennessee Tech, at Kentucky, at Bama, which should be a pretty good game. But I still think they're slightly favored. That's more of a coaching change on the Bama side more than anything. But they could come out quick. But I'm curious to see how DeBoer does at Alabama. Auburn, finally we get Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas, the cocktail party, Ole Miss, which probably might be the game for the for who gets in or who's the home team in the conference championship, in my opinion, than Georgia Tech and Massachusetts. So I like Georgia as my number one seed at the moment. They just got so many weapons on the offense as well. I mean, I'm not sure what the deal is with ETN to open up the season, but you still got all those receivers and tight ends with Oscar Delp, and then you added a Colby Young at wide receiver, and a couple of transfers, and Malachi Starks leading the defense. As long as Smile Munden's playing, that get some pass rush up front. So I really like Georgia this year to be the overall number one seed.
Yeah, they're not a hard team. They're my number 2, but
Yeah,
I wrestled with not having them in the top.
yeah.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just because they do have a tougher schedule. Like, this is
Mhm.
not like Georgia's had not cake, but they've had a little bit of cake the last several years, to whereas like they, have had an easier road to hoe than, some of these
Yeah,
other
yeah,
past seasons. The fact that you got to go on the road to 3 of those places and you have that
exactly.
little bit of a 3-game sandwich, you get
Mhm.
the bye before the Gator game, but playing at Texas, playing Florida, and then Ole Miss on the road, those are 3 games that they haven't had,
Yeah,
back to back, and then going to Bama. So, like, I still feel like they're obviously 1A, 1B, Ohio State,
yeah,
Georgia,
for sure. That's
and
pretty much how it is. Yeah.
Carson Beck's probably the best quarterback in the country. Kirby is Kirby. So
Mhm.
Georgia's loaded, but I think they've got a little bit of a tougher road to hoe, and whatever. So
Mhm.
I've got them number 2 winning the SEC, but I wrestled with having them maybe get to the championship game and losing, but still getting in the playoff. But I had them winning, so they're my pick to be the second
Yeah.
team. Number 3 for me is the
Well,
ACC.
hopefully before you jump to 3,
Yeah.
Ohio State's my number 2.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, you're good. You're good.
yeah,
Ohio State. I figured we had them flipped or the
yeah, yeah,
same.
yeah.
I have Ohio State number 2 in mind. I think they're, like you
For the
said,
same
they're one
reasons I
of,
said, yeah,
for the same reasons. I mean,
yeah.
you just can't add all that talent and not be that good. And then the one thing you didn't mention was Chip Kelly as the OC this season.
I like
That,
that
that I
definitely.
like that too, just because that might take the pressure off of Ryan Day when it gets to the game that matters at the end of the season. And having an athletic quarterback like Will Howard with a guy like Chip Kelly that knows how to use athletic quarterbacks. I don't expect Will Howard probably to run much to start the season off, maybe here and there, just to save him throughout the season. And then in those big games against Oregon and Michigan, I can see Chip opening it up and just saying, "Hey, Will, we need you to use your feet to pick up some first downs or some big plays and get us out of some bad situations." But when you got that receiving core and running backs, like you said, I mean, he shouldn't be in too many bad situations. But yeah,
Yeah,
they're my
they're
number 2.
yeah, their schedule sets up, their first
Mm-hmm.
4 games are kind of like warm up, get tune up games,
The
and then
usual Ohio State, yeah.
they've got a little bit of a, it's a tough stretch there where they got 4 games,
Yeah.
and they got to go on the road. They're playing Iowa, who obviously has got a good defense. Then they play at Oregon, which will be tough. Nebraska is the hot upstart team. Matt Rule's got, people chirping about Nebraska again. And then you got to go at Penn State. So at Oregon, at Penn State, and that little 4-game stretch is going to be, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
It's not your typical where they've got it spaced out where they only got to play at Penn
Well,
State and they don't have to play Michigan until
well,
late.
the other
So
thing you gotta factor in too is conference realignment, and you're going a little further distance for some of those games where normally Ohio State would probably play those big games. Just say if Oregon was still in the Pac-12, like week 1 or 2. Now,
right.
like you say, you're mixing it into the season, and you
Yep.
got to go on the road. You got to get on that flight and head out to Eugene, and then come home to play Nebraska, and then go out to Penn State. I know Ohio State to Penn State isn't far, but when you add in all these extra logistics for conference realignment, it could throw a bump in the road. Like, are these guys used to being on the road like that? Instead of it just being, we're just going to hop on a flight to go to
Yeah.
Happy Valley,
Go to
Friday
the West.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going out to Oregon, you may have to leave on Thursday. Like, how does that throw everyone off and whatnot? Not
Yeah.
saying they should lose that game because of that, but that's a wrinkle coaches have to throw in now
No, for sure.
going
Well, like I
forward.
said, again, this is where obviously we know the 2 best conferences are the SEC and the Big Ten. We know that
Mhm.
it's heavy, top loaded with some of the really good teams, but it's good to see where Ohio State, Georgia, and like Oregon and Texas, they're all going to have to play some of these other teams that
Yeah.
they normally had to. You're loading up on some of these new teams,
Mhm.
so that makes what should be an interesting run. than versus just, having a regular SEC or Big Ten conference schedule, and then you have a big game here or there, and then you only have your big boys like Ohio State. Like we talked about last year, Ohio State's schedule was what? Penn State and Michigan. Then throw in maybe a one timer
Yeah.
against, Iowa or whatever. But
Mhm.
it's going to be good, and it's going to be interesting to see, the levels of now the competition stepped up. You got a little bit more juicier schedule. Where do you go from here? So yeah, like I say,
Yeah.
still feel like Ohio State and Georgia, top to bottom, offensively, defensively,
Coaching.
coaching wise, they're the top two teams
Yeah.
in going into the season. But like I say, flipping ahead to number 3, like I say, we've got to pick basically your conference winners are your top 4 seeds as
Mhm.
the playoff format goes. So the number 3 seed is the ACC championship, the Miami Hurricanes,
I
baby.
see you. I
The
can't believe it.
Hurricanes. Yeah, you can believe it. Hey, they're going to lose week 1, but they're going to run the table.
Yeah, I don't okay.
We
Mhm.
lost to the Gators, but you're still in the playoff, dog. Congratulations. I'll be like, hey, we beat a playoff team. But no, I like the Canes schedule. I like what Mario's brought in. We've talked about it in the Canes preview. You bring in probably the number 1 transfer portal quarterback in Cam Ward. Can he be that guy? Is he going to be that guy?
Mhm.
You bring in, one of the top running back portal guys in Martinez. He's going to carry the load with Fletcher. You got receivers, you got offensive line, you got a D line. They got all the parts. Mario's going to learn from his mistakes. He's going to take knees when they're up. So now just put it together and see what happens. So I got the Canes winning the ACC. I'm going to go. That's it's not like an upset pick, but it's kind of an upset pick because the faux pick is Florida State and
Yeah, yeah.
Clemson. I've got them playing basically Clemson in that game. So, I got the Canes winning the ACC and being the number 3 seed, dog. Who you got?
Number 3, I got Utah.
The
I got
Utes, baby.
I got your Utes
Yeah,
in there.
I threw you on that. I threw you on that Utah bandwagon. They're starting to scare me now. All of a sudden, everybody's like
No,
picking them. No. It's
I
just I'm just
mean,
saying,
it's
like everybody's all of a sudden picking them, like no brainer. But
but
there's
when
still a
you
couple
look
good
at
teams out in the Big 12.
yeah, I mean, but when you look at the Big 12 and you look at the lineup, they're one of the better teams. And Cam Rising coming back for his 29th year.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta like you gotta love what Kyle Whittingham has done at Utah
Yeah,
since
I
he
think
taken over for Urban. And then you got a guy like Cam Rising. As long as he
I was
stays
wondering. I was
healthy,
wondering if Cam Rising was on that team with Alex Smith. Was he like a freshman that year or something?
he probably was. Could have been a red shirt. But
Yeah, he's
yeah,
been
I
there
mean,
forever.
I like Utah in being the 3 seed. Their schedule sets up nice. I mean, they got Southern Utah, Baylor at Utah State. They got Oklahoma State, Zona, Arizona State, TCU, Houston, BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, UCF. And I think that's just going to be the theme of our top 12 is how the schedule breaks down.
Yeah.
Are you missing a team here and there? You don't have to play a murderer's row in your and you say murderer's row, but for the most part in your conference, like you say, Ohio State not playing who USC. I'm just throwing USC in there.
Yeah.
But if they're not playing like a USC, Penn State, Ohio, Oregon, and a Washington, just to give it a hard schedule. And I think that's just how I'm looking at it. Because like even going back, well, we'll get to that. But yeah, I like Utah's setup. I like everything they have coming back. Their defense is going to be flying around. And like I say, if Cam Rising could stay healthy, and one of my surprise picks to get into the playoff that they're going to beat is Kansas. I think Kansas is going to be good as long as Jalen Daniels comes back and he's healthy. We know they're going to put up points. They're going to score points as long as, but they got Daniels and Bean at quarterback. So if Daniels goes down, they could throw in a guy that had to play all of last season. But I do like Kansas and Utah playing in the Big 12 championship game, and I think Utah's going to win it.
All right, cool. So like I say, that's we didn't talk about who we thought Ohio State was going to beat or Georgia was going to beat because
Yeah, I mean, we could throw that in there now.
No, but what I'm saying is those teams are probably more than likely going to be teams that are, because they're obviously the 2 best leagues are the Big Ten and SEC, like we just said. So whoever the runner up in that league is obviously going to have a good record.
Good
they're
chance
going to be,
in, especially with no divisions.
What's weird is too, and this is what's crazy too. I know I've heard people talk about it, is like, you get maybe a rematch in that game, but then also, how does the committee punish a team that loses in that game. Like what if you
Right.
get
I was thinking that.
like
Yeah.
what if we'll just say, for instance, like my SEC championship is Georgia Ole Miss. Okay. So they play in the regular season.
Yeah. I
And
got the same one.
so there you go. So Georgia Ole Miss. So they play in the regular season. We'll just say Georgia won that game. So now they're playing in the SEC championship game. So Ole Miss has already got the one Georgia loss. Let's just say they have 2 losses. Let's say they lost to somebody else in the regular season too. So they're a 10-2 SEC runner-up, and then Georgia dings them again. So now they've got 3 losses, but you're like, okay, they lost to Georgia twice, who's your number 2 seed. They had to play in this game because they earned their way into it.
Yeah.
You can't like, I don't know where they'll even be ranked. Let's just say they're ranked like 8th.
They'll be between, I think, 9 and 13.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So 8 and again, you lose that game. Like, in my opinion, that's a tough ding to knock them out.
I think it just depends on it just depends on 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
All right, well,
who do you have right there?
I'll throw a scenario out there. We'll just throw another SEC team in there. What if it's Tennessee was 10-2, but they didn't get in and they're hanging out at 13 or something,
I think they get in.
You think Tennessee gets in?
I'm not saying they should get in. I think that's how the committee is going to look at it. Because remember, that's how they used to do it. They were like, the next team up is going to they're going to slide in just because of the polls.
That's crazy to me. I don't disagree with that.
In a power ranking style, Ole Miss should get in.
Right. So like I say, that almost like it benefits you from getting in the championship game, because you can be like, oh, Tennessee, like, sweet, we're just going to hang out here at 13 and come on, Georgia, knock them boys out, and then
sneak in. Yeah,
that's like, I hope that's not what happens.
I think so. For your scenario, I think if just say Georgia was just say 1 or 2, and Ole Miss was 4 or 5, I think they may be able to sneak in then. But if they're at 8, 9, or 10 going into that SEC championship game, and that's their 3rd loss, I could see them getting snuffed out, even by the group of 5.
That's just crazy to be punished. That's crazy to be punished that you earned your way into that game and you caught another loss when another team in your same conference had the same record as you. Maybe could have went to that game, and vice versa. Flip. So Tennessee could be in that game playing Georgia again, and Ole Miss just hanging out, being like, "Sweet."
Well, I think that's why the schedule of these teams we're picking is so important this year. Like, you don't want to duck the teams in your conference, but you do want that at least this first year, you do kind of want that easier path to get to your conference championship game to get in the playoff. But at the same time, if Ole Miss, I have the Ole Miss schedule in front of me. Who do I have?
Ole Miss has got an easy schedule.
Yeah, they got Furman, Middle Tennessee State, at Wake, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU,
7-0,
OU,
maybe
Arky, Georgia, UF, and Mississippi State. Like you say, the only reason
3-game schedule.
The 3-game schedule. But the only reason why I think they possibly could lose 2 is just because of that stretch of LSU, OU, Arkansas, Georgia, and UF.
Those are all losable games.
At the end of the day, it's still the SEC. It's a tough conference, and we need Lane and the boys to prove that they can win. I mean, they spent a ton of money this offseason to bring in transfers. Who's the running back going to be is what's curious to me. I know Henry Parrish went back. I mean, losing Quinshon Judkins. I mean, if they had Judkins, I think they would probably be a top 3 team, to be honest with you. But, losing that key component to your offense, who's going to step in and be that running back? Because there are going to be games where they need to run the ball and milk that clock. They just can't keep throwing it. I like Jackson Dart and Trey Harris, throwing it to Trey Harris. Like I say, they're going to put up points, but their problem was they couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah,
like LSU. But they just were able to score more points. But yeah, that scenario you brought up is going to be interesting to see, like, who gets left out this season, because I got a feeling it's going to happen to someone.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, well, like I say, I'll jump to my 4 is Utah. So you had Utah at 3. I got them at 4. So basically, give me your ACC champion, dog. Who you going with?
I got Clemson.
Sad
but true. Sad but true. I got Clemson at number. I got Clemson at number 4. I truly think they're probably going to play my Canes in the ACC championship game. In the big game,
another rematch. Yeah.
No, we don't play Clemson this year.
Oh, you don't play Clemson this season?
No, we
Yeah, that's
don't play.
right.
That's why I picked
Yeah.
Clemson. Clemson's schedule is pretty
I know.
out.
We talk
Yeah,
about
that's what
how
I'm
there's some
saying.
manageable.
I hate bringing up the schedule, but when you look at it, you're like, man, you get through. If they could get through Georgia, they only play Florida State. I don't even think they play Notre Dame. I think their third hardest game, I want to say, is NC State.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna pull it
So
up now, but I agree. I like Clemson too. That's who I got the Canes playing is
yeah,
Clemson. So obviously the
I do.
question
I
is
think
about
we could beat Clemson. I think we could
yeah,
beat Clemson. But like what
right.
I told you during the preview, the Miami preview, the thing that scares me is Mario, the coaching. Like, do we make bad decisions at the wrong time? I mean, we got lucky and beat Clemson last year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be one to sit here and say, "Oh, we won that game." And I thought we dominated for the most part, but we couldn't get it in the end zone. And Clemson had plenty of opportunities to win that game last season. You know, especially they couldn't cover Barney Stool to save their life, the tight
Yeah.
end. So, like I say, with the thing with the Canes is can we get through the season and not have the dumb losses? Like every year is the dumb ACC loss or two. So I think we can manage the schedule and get to that point.
Yeah. I'm putting the expectations on y'all. I'm putting the
Yeah,
expectations on y'all.
but I mean, I'll just jump right into it. The sleeper team I have in the ACC is Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech could be
Yeah.
a sneaky team to come out of the ACC to make the playoff.
No, I've
Since
heard,
we're
I've
at number
heard, I've
four.
heard that one. I've heard that one too. I know
Yeah.
NC State's like faux ranked
Mhm.
top 25. I mean, that's Clemson basically. Looking at it, they've got a couple of tough games here. They obviously start out with Georgia week 1, so they could be 0-1 right out the gate. Then they do play NC State 2 weeks after. They play App State, NC State. Then they go to Tallahassee on October 5th. Then later on in the year, they got to go to Blacksburg. So that,
Yeah.
like I say, those are difficult games if
Mhm.
you're talking about a team that can be sneaky. And then, on the flip side, talking about a Virginia Tech, I remember looking at their schedule saying this is manageable.
Yeah.
They got Vandy, Marshall, Old Dominion, Rutgers out the gate before
Mhm.
they go to you guys. Then they got to go all the way out to Cal to play Stanford. Then they got BC Tech, Syracuse, Clemson, Duke, and Virginia. So like I said, that's a
Very manageable
9-10
schedule.
win off rip schedule. It's like,
Yeah.
So,
But
but
it all goes down to health going during the season.
yeah,
Can you catch a break here and there? Are you going to be at home? Are those games at home or are they on the road? It's just so much coaches have to manage now. And is a kid going to be upset because of his NIL deal or whatever? I mean, you got to factor that in. That's a dumb thing to think about at this moment, but it's just things you got to think about. And can you get through that schedule? And will a key component of your team get hurt? And then you got like a Old Dominion for a week, even though Virginia Tech struggled with Old Dominion the last couple of years, to where you could say, all right, I could sit a guy because coaches, that's going to be on the back burner for some coaches' minds. Like going into some games, you're going to be like, Kirby could sit there and be like, all right, we're playing Samford the week before Georgia Tech. Can I just get Carson in for a series or two and then get him out just to keep him healthy? Because you look at the Florida State situation against Jacksonville State last year. Was it Jacksonville State where JT got hurt?
yeah.
Yeah. So you gotta think about those things and factor those things in. Should coaches be thinking that? They'll never say that out loud, but I guarantee you, Ryan Day's going to be thinking about that going into to the Michigan game. If we're playing Indiana, a team we should beat, can we get a quick lead and get a couple guys here and there out that have some nagging injuries, get them healthy and ready to go? I mean, that's just stuff you have to factor in, and it's going to be fun to see how this first year of the 12-team playoff, how coaches figure things out and when we're going to play guys, sit guys, and like you say, hey, do we need stop if we're Ole Miss and we're sitting in that tier of we got to play Georgia for the championship game? We already have 2 losses. Maybe those last 2 games we need style points to say, hey, we're a dominant team. We just can't beat that team from Athens.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I say, that it's going to be a whole new dynamic to this whole thing. It'll be fun to watch it materialize and play out and see what teams do and what their strategies are and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
All right, dog. So we got our 4 champions of our league. So now
hold
let's
on
go
before we get to that. Who did you have playing?
I
know you
basically
picked
had
Miami, Clemson.
I had Ohio State beating Oregon. I had Georgia beating Ole Miss.
Okay.
I had the Canes beating Clemson, and I had Utah beating Okie State.
Okay. So we almost pretty much had the same other than the Big 12.
Yeah. You had
Big 12
Kansas.
game.
So yeah. So all right.
Yeah.
So give me your number 5 seed. So this is your at-large team. So this will probably be a lot of the runner-ups, and then you're gonna have, your teams that are on the fringe top, and then your G5. So who you got? Who you got at 5?
You go with your 5. I need a second.
I got the Oregon Ducks, baby. The Ducks. I like Oregon a lot this year.
So
I
did
love
you do that for your 2-5 matchup? So they're not playing. No, they would still be matched up with Ohio State.
No, because the 5 plays the 12.
I mean, the next round.
Yeah, the next. Well, I basically, like I say, when I looked at this, I just picked who I thought where they'd be slotted, and then when I bracketed it out, it was like, well, it is what it is. These two teams are playing again, or this team's playing again.
Gotcha.
I didn't try to do like a sexy matchup. Like, ooh, I want to see this team have a home playoff game.
Gotcha. That's
a whole nother part of the dynamics too. Is like, yes, you're a top 4 seed, so yeah, like the Canes, you guys won't get your bye. But the other teams get that home first round game. They get that atmosphere. They get a little, confidence.
Once
like it can roll you into, that, like, just like the NFL playoffs. That wild card team gets that game in them, and they're like, "Ooh, this team's."
I'm just ready to see how long it takes for college presidents and ADs to complain about that the first round being a home game. And then the 4 overall seeds not being able to have home games, because you know how much revenue they're going to lose out.
I know that's the catch-22. That's the catch-22, because would you rather have the bye and be one of the top 4 seeds, or would you rather have to play an extra game and then get the money? I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I don't know what's better. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
As a president and AD, yes, you're about winning, but you're also about your college making money. So losing out on a weekend's revenue, especially the first year, the couple of years of hosting a home game, is huge when you're thinking about revenue, especially when it comes to paying players and staying in the arms race. Like, how key is that for ACC teams to have that first round home, like a Miami or Florida State or a Clemson, when you're already wanting to get out of the conference because of money, and you can host that first round game where you're like, as the coach, if you're Mario, you're like, man, I want the first round bye. But everyone above him sitting there like, ooh, we could use that extra revenue coming in for other sports and whatnot. I mean, I'm just saying you got to factor that in. But my number 5 team, I have the University of Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. All right. You got them boys having a good season then, because they've got a manageable schedule too. I like Notre Dame.
Manageable schedule.
Yeah. They have a couple tough games, but if Notre Dame's a 1 or 2 loss team, they're definitely going to be in the mix to get in there.
Yeah, you can't keep them out.
I got Notre Dame in mind too, but I just don't have them that high. So, but I mean, but I like Notre Dame as well this year. I think Riley Leonard coming over is big at the quarterback spot. I think, Marcus Freeman's done a pretty good job there. The question is, how good can they be?
Yeah,
can they get past some of those games where, you're like, can you win one of those big ones?
Yeah,
that's gonna be the big question mark. Like, I love the fact that they play. Let me pull up their schedule because I had it up here a second ago. Like I say, Notre Dame always plays, who they play, but having to go to Florida or playing at home against Florida State, that'll be a big game. They always play the USC game. Hell, week 1, man. Week 1, that's going to be that's a huge game next week.
Yeah.
Because if you start off 0-1, you're definitely behind the 8 ball. You lose that mulligan. But I still feel like if they lose that game, their schedule still sets up to where they can kind of run the table. And if they need they'll need a big Florida State win.
Yeah. And then, but if they lose 2 games, how does the committee weigh their schedule versus just say an Ole Miss or a Kansas, teams that are in a conference? How do they weigh their wins versus just say even a Florida State that may be on the outside looking in? with 2 or 3 losses. Like, how do you weigh it with them not being in the conference? Of course, we already know that the draw for Notre Dame football on TV may
No,
supersede
I think you're going to get
some
logo fever on that one
things.
for sure. I think you're going to get logo
Yeah, I
fever on that
mean,
for sure.
people don't want to see that, but that's just the reality of the world we live in. And if Notre Dame's sitting at a 10-2, it'll be hard for me to believe they're not even an 11 seed, not getting in. But I think they're, like you say, I won't say upgrade at quarterback, but they stayed on par with quarterback with Riley Leonard coming in, replacing Sam Hartman. How fast can they get it up and going? Like you say, week 1, going to Texas A&M. You like your chances just because you got a new coach coming in with a new system with Mike Elko at Texas A&M. You may be able to steal one just because guys aren't in rhythm or in, figuring out the defense or figuring out the offense in game situations and whatnot. So they might be able to steal one week 1. But if they can, it sets up perfect for the rest of the year.
Yeah. All right. Well, you say you got Notre Dame at 5. I got
Yep.
Oregon at 5. 6, I got the Ole Miss Rebels, the SEC runner-up to Georgia. I like what Lane's got, and I feel like that offense should be good. The question is, how much better they get on defense. They bought and paid for a lot of guys that should help that defense. So now it's a matter of putting it together, gelling it out, and I think their schedule sets up pretty easily for Ole Miss. I wanted to pick Ole Miss to maybe even win the SEC, but I just couldn't do it. Yeah, like I say, I like Ole Miss this season. I like Lane.
They possibly can.
No, they totally
like
can.
Say, anything when it comes to football. What if Carson has a nagging injury? Just say,
like I say, really and truly, this year I was going to say, going into this season, if you pick any one of these 12 teams and even a couple teams that are fringe, like any one of them could win. You throw it in a blender, and it's like, yes, you have your top picks of like Ohio State and Georgia, but like again, I wouldn't consider Miami and Utah maybe better than Ole Miss at the end of the year, but they're the 6th seed versus being the 3 seed, so like that's where it gets tricky. It's like,
well, the other
one
thing
of these I think Oregon and Ole Miss are better than Miami and Utah.
I wouldn't disagree with that. But then the other thing you got to factor in too, just say my favorite team, jokingly, that's going to get in. I don't have them really ranked anywhere, but at Penn State, I think Penn State could easily get in. If you're Clemson or Miami or Ole Miss and you have to go to Happy Valley in December and play, like that's that's huge. Can you imagine? Like, we all know teams from the state of Florida do not want to play in the cold in November, December, January.
Yeah, guess what? Well, I got those matchups, so we'll talk about them when we get to them.
Okay,
I got a couple of those matchups.
I got you.
All right, who's your number 6?
Mine's I'll put Oregon at 6. Just because, like I say, I think them losing the Big Ten is not a bad thing. It's just the fact that I'll have Oregon. I mean, who did I have at 5? I forgot who I had 5. I had Notre Dame ahead of them. Notre Dame. Sorry, we're at 6. So I have Notre Dame just sneaking in just over them just because they're going to get in. They don't have a conference they have to worry about. Once they're done, they may have one loss, and they're just going to be sitting at 5 and just sitting pretty.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. So, like I said, I mean, I have them in 2 because they are my number 7 team. Is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish is my 7 seed. So basically, those are 3 of the teams that are going to have home games. So, who you got at number 7?
7, I'll put Ole Miss.
The Ole Miss Rebels, baby.
I mean, you should reward teams for at least making their conference championship.
Right.
They shouldn't be just say 10, 11, 12. But I mean, it all depends on who's behind them and what their record is. But I would say those teams should get rewarded for making to their conference championship games, unless they were just 3 better teams. It's just one of those funky years where you have 3 teams in one conference that all go 12-1 just because they don't all play each other. They end up 12-1. They got to do a funky tiebreaker and the odd man out. Just say if Penn State goes 12-1, Ohio State and Oregon all go 12-1. I don't think it could happen. But if it hypothetically does one year and they're the odd man out, they shouldn't be penalized to be like a 10, 11, 12 seed.
No,
they should be like 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah, like I say, I've been listening to some of these other podcasts and national people. They've got 4 SEC and 4 Big Tens in there out of the
Yeah,
8
I
out of the
believe it.
12.
I
So
believe it.
I've got 4 SECs in mine. So you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm the SEC homer. It just means more. But at number 8, the final home team to get a home game in the second round or the first round of the not getting a bye is your Penn State Nittany James Franklin Fighting Lions, baby. I got Penn State. I think this is the year finally. The format for Penn State to get into a playoff is
Finally,
add more teams. We need more teams to get James Franklin over the hump. He can have that 1 or 2 lost season. No, I think, in all honesty, we've talked about it. Hell, James Franklin, he's one of the coaches that everybody loves him, but then everybody hates him. He gets a lot of flack for not winning the big game.
Mm-hmm.
His team is consistently good, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're not great. But I think this year, obviously having Drew Aller in a second season, he took his lumps last year as a young guy. I love their running back. I feel like Penn State defensively is going to be really good like they were last year. Yeah, they lost some guys to the draft. But again, he's consistently put together good teams. How manageable is their schedule? So I feel like they're a 10. I feel like they're a 10-2, 10-win team.
Yeah.
So I feel like those type of teams are going to get in, and I've got them sitting there at number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8.
Yeah, I guess that's where I would put Miami. I would put Miami since they lost to Clemson. I have them losing to Clemson. I would put them at 8.
Yep.
So they would sit there.
Yep. I've got, like I say, Clemson is in, but they're a little bit further down. I've got them as the runner-up to the Canes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, my number 9. Who's your number 9? I'll let you go. Number 9.
I'd probably put Kansas.
That's where you got the Jayhawks, Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's where I got Hook'em. I got Hook'em in there, baby. I got Texas as the number 9 seed. A lot of people, I'm getting mixed reviews on Texas lately. Everybody's feeling like, oh my God, the injury bugs hit them. They're going to fall off the planet of the earth. Now, granted, losing CJ Baxter is rough because he was looking like to be a freaking star this year. You lose your backup running back for the season now. So now you're like, who's going to be the running back? But in all honesty, I still feel like this offense is headlined by the quarterback and the quarterbacks in Ewers and Arch. They get Isaiah Bond over, was Bama's best receiver. Yeah, they lost Xavier Worthy. They lost Jatavion Sanders at tight end, but I still feel like they got good speed.
I like Silas Bolden coming from Oregon State.
I feel like they got speed at receiver.
Yeah.
Defensively, losing those guys in the front definitely hurts. But Sark's done a great job recruiting. Like, what sucks is if they didn't lose Baxter, how high would I have them? Because I've seen people, completely leave Texas out of the top 12, and that's crazy to me. Really? There you go. So they're not in the playoffs. So Texas and Sark, they're like, what have you done for me lately, Texas? You ain't done shit.
I think
they finally make it to the Final Four last year. And now they're like,
how I look at my 12, I think they're going to have a good year, but I just think there are going to be some other teams that might be able to sneak in just because of the schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah.
I have Penn State in there. Like, I think Penn State's probably going to have a better road than Texas will. I think Texas is going to, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they're moving to the big boy conference, so they're going to lose right away. I think they're just going to struggle. They lost so many. I think it's 11 drafted players. Texas has lost 11 drafted players. And we're not just talking about, a guy here and there, a backup linebacker or third receiver, which they did lose their third receiver. I mean, you're replacing all your receivers. You're replacing your whole defensive line. Of course, they got talent coming in, but that's just some big numbers to consistently say we're going to win after that. I think they're going to vie for the SEC. I just think they're going to come up short. I just don't think they're going to make it to the SEC championship game. And they're going to be probably like 13, 14, 15 right there to end the season.
Yeah. See, like I said, I feel like they're a 10-win team. All the teams, I feel like they're going to be obviously the third team in the SEC behind Georgia and Ole Miss. The thing about Texas is they play Georgia this year. They don't get Ole Miss. They don't get Bama. Like, I like Texas's schedule. Yeah, they get to play, in my opinion, a broke down, battered Michigan team that's not going to be as good. Now that's a road game, but I feel like that's a game that you want to play Michigan early because they're going to be breaking in the new parts of that team. Then they get UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State. Then they play Red River, which would be a good game. That's the team that tripped them up last year. Then they get Vandy, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky before they play the rivalry game with A&M. So I just feel like they're a 10-win team, and I feel like 10 wins gets you in. I feel like 10 wins get you in.
I'm so excited for that Texas A&M game.
Like I say, it's crazy. Like, so you think
forever?
It's crazy. You think Kansas? You got Kansas in over Texas.
Well, Kansas. I have Kansas playing in the Big 12 championship game.
I mean, just because they're the runner-up doesn't mean they have to be in. Like I don't have Oklahoma State in the 12.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
All right, Bubby.
I get it, buddy. I get it.
I feel
this
you,
is my 12. This is your 12. My 12.
You put your 12.
I could be completely wrong, which I probably will, but this is my 12 looking at it right now.
All right, well, you got at number 9.
Penn State.
So Penn State. So we got them both in there by basically swapped.
Hey, at some point, like we just talked about with Penn State, this is the year because there's more spots that they should get in, and watch James Franklin blow it and have a 3rd loss this season.
I mean, 3 losses still get you. 3 losses still can get you in this thing.
No, buddy. No, it doesn't. 3 losses is not getting you in.
No, it's still. I'm saying potentially you still could get in with 3 losses.
I don't see them getting in with 3 losses.
I'm telling. There's going to be some 3-loss teams in this playoff. I'm telling you, because the way these schedules are set up, everybody's acting like you got to go undefeated again. Like no, you can have. I'm just saying that a 9-3 team can get in there. Now, granted,
all right, I got 2 teams for you. Let me see. I got a couple teams for you. Hold on a second. I got to plug in before I die. So, what do you? The team we've talked about multiple times, Missouri. Yeah. Well, how do you feel about Missouri? Missouri could sneak in.
No, Missouri definitely could sneak in. They were one of my teams that I was gonna automatically just write in just because I think their schedule sucks.
They don't play anybody. Iowa doesn't play anybody. Iowa could sneak in.
Yeah.
Those
teams, in my opinion, those teams are the ones that have to go 1 loss.
Right. And I have Missouri. Since you're making me pick a group of 5.
I'm making you. That's the rule. That's the rule.
I know. So you're making me pick a group of 5. So it's a coin flip. My last spot at number 11 is a coin flip between Missouri and Iowa.
All right, well, give me 10. Give me 10. And give me.
I just gave you 10. I mean 11. I just gave you mine. I got Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Utah, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Clemson, Kansas. And then, Miami is 10. So the last spot is either Missouri or Iowa. And then the team the group of 5 I don't care about, I'm just going to say Liberty. For default. Just because I have to pick. I don't like any of them because I don't feel like a group of 5 should be in the playoff. If they play 2 like good teams and they beat those 2 teams, and they win their conference, sure, let them in to get destroyed.
Yeah, like I say, we could discuss the G5, but it's a bunch of crap. Like
they shouldn't have their own playoff. I don't know why they won't do it.
It's not that they won't do it. It's literally this is the first year they just wanted to get the thing off the ground and get it going. They're giving the team a chance. It's going to get bylawed out really quickly because it's going to be a blowout just like last year's Fiesta Bowl when Oregon played Liberty, where it's like 52-10.
Yeah. And
it's like, why are we watching this garbage? So it is what it is. My last 2 teams are basically Alabama at 10, Clemson at 11, and Boise State is my G5.
I should have known you were going to get Alabama in there some way, somehow. I should have known that.
Why would I not? They're still one of the best teams in the country.
I know. It's a lot of teams.
The question mark is, what does Kalen DeBoer do in year 1? I mean, they still got Jalen Milroe. They got dudes. Like, so the question mark is, how does that new system infiltrate?
Translates right away.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Alabama's better than Missouri. You know, it's just
I
Missouri.
am not disagreeing with you on that.
Like I
But
said,
if Missouri goes 11-1, you're not going to put them in
yeah,
the hey,
you
SEC,
totally would put
because
them in
the
at
first
11-1.
thing SEC
Well,
fans are going
that's
to
what I'm saying. So
say,
you're
we're the best
predicting.
conference.
Hell yeah, I'm putting Missouri in at 11-1. You know,
Okay.
but so you're basically predicting them to lose to just Bama, maybe, because
Yeah, potentially.
that's one of their games they play. So
Yeah, it's one of their games.
yeah, no, I mean, again, so you got Missouri in there, or who'd you pick? Iowa? Which one?
Coin toss. I could give two, you know what, for that spot, because I think it's going to be one of those two. And I'm going to be completely wrong, and it's going to be 3 teams in this that we didn't even think about, like an Arizona.
Well, that's like I said,
Which
we'll get to
I
that.
loved Arizona until Jedd Fisch left and went to Washington.
Yeah,
If
no,
Jedd Fisch would have stayed at Arizona, Arizona would have been in my top 12.
Yeah, I would have probably picked Arizona, Utah to be in that Big 12 championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, like I said, I didn't pick the Big 12 runner-up. I didn't pick Oklahoma State to get in because I feel like Alabama, Clemson are better than Oklahoma State, or like in your pick, Kansas. I feel like basically the best conferences.
Yeah,
SEC,
I
Big Ten.
get all that, but I just get. I mean, shit. If we're gonna just keep picking the same teams over and over again, why even do a podcast? Why even talk about it? That's just how I feel, because then everyone's gonna say the same thing over and over again. Oh my God, Georgia, Alabama, or Oregon.
Well, that's what I said. This is gonna be chalk. That's the chalk. It's basically, like I said, I just looked at Heather Dinich. She posted this morning. She has 11 of the 12 teams that I got in mind. I watched other podcasts. Nobody's picking like wild card. Like you picking Kansas definitely is a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Like my teams that are on the fringe, who I would pick wild card wise to basically, if injuries break a certain way and like an Ole Miss or a Texas fall out, is Tennessee and Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I like Oklahoma really, like, for as much as sometimes we bag on them, like, yes, Dylan Gabriel was really good. They beat Texas early in the year and looked like they were going to be like a team that was going to be reckoned with. Looked like they were going to be the team to get in that Final Four, and then they just kind of fall off and they get blown out by UCF. I love Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart's going to be a really special player.
I think so too.
I love Venables' defense. So, like, again, Oklahoma coming into the league, like they've got
throwing in a new QB who really didn't play much, and
that's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't put him in there. But I could see.
I mean, it's even with Tennessee. Remember, you were killing them the other week when we did the Florida preview about Nico.
No, I like Tennessee way better than I do like LSU and some of these other teams. So I got Tennessee. I got Tennessee high up on the list.
I just think going forward with the college football playoff, it's just going to come down to schedule rotations. How does your schedule rotate?
Well, I guess my biggest question with that schedule rotation, if you got a 9-3 Oklahoma over a 10-2 Kansas, who are you going to pick?
I'm sure they would lean probably with Oklahoma. They would definitely lean with SEC over a Big 12 team, because they're going to say Big 12, you don't have anyone. Like,
that's where I'm saying a 9-3 team could get in there. Like a 9-3 Penn State over.
Yeah, but the problem is, watch the damn game. I could see. I'm not saying you could always see who's better than who, but I just want people to watch the game and give an informed opinion, and not just go, "Oh, that's the SEC team, so we should put them in there." And that's how a lot of these voters vote. A lot of these voters vote that way. They couldn't even tell you what happened on Saturday. They watched 3 games, didn't watch. Remember when USC was good and all of that? They weren't watching the West Coast games. They weren't watching Oregon last year. A lot of, it's the East Coast bias. So I'm just saying, watch the games and then decide, all right, that team looked really good on TV, not just, I'm just looking at the stats. And they play a different way. Because they don't have 400 yards passing doesn't mean they're not a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just how they factor some things,
Yeah, my Big 12 wild cards are Iowa State and K-State. Like, I like both of them.
Yeah,
I like your Kansas pick, but I like Kansas State and Iowa State if they were to make some noise.
Yeah,
obviously,
I still like Zona. I still like Fafita and McMillan, that combination. I'm sure teams are going to key in on them, and I'm curious to see how they play the season. But like I say, if Jedd Fisch was still there, I would probably have them playing Utah in the Big 12 championship game. But I like what I like what Kansas has done the last couple of years. And just the injury bug has kind of gotten them the last 2-3 years, especially at the quarterback position. If you don't score points, you're probably not going to beat Kansas unless you just have a hella defense.
Yeah. No, like I said, Kansas is going to be an interesting.
Yeah.
Lance Leopold's done a great job. They've become a major.
Don't count out the ACC, like you said, Virginia Tech, favorable schedule. They got a returning quarterback with drones. They got a good running back. The receivers, don't know much about their receivers, but I'm curious to see them. Syracuse, just because they don't play any damn body. I don't think they're probably going to go 8-4 this year. But the one thing I'm looking forward to the most is Iowa. Can Iowa score over 20 points a game?
Mm-hmm.
We know that defense is going to ball out. They lost their punter that went to the Bears, so I don't know if they're going to be able to flip the field like they did a lot last season. If Iowa could figure out the offensive side and get 20 points a game, they might be able to beat a lot of teams in the Big Ten, other than the Big Three for the most part.
Yeah. All right. So since you didn't bracket yours up,
I'm a slacker.
You're a slacker. So here's the matchups. So I'll let you pick the way my bracket went down. You pick who you're going to go to the championship, and then you can tell me who. Like at least I guess should we do that, or you give me go ahead and give me your Final Four, or we'll do this first, and then you can just give me who you think is going to make it to the Final Four in your national championship. Because basically the first round matchups would be, counting those top 4 teams, all get the bye.
Yeah.
Your first round matchup game, Boise at Oregon. Well, I think we know exactly. Clemson at Ole Miss.
I like Ole Miss.
Yep. Alabama at Notre Dame. There's your cold weather game for a South team going up to South Bend. That'll be a cool. That's a great match. That's a fun game, right?
Yeah. It's like I want to lean Alabama, but like I say, you got to factor in that cold. And we know Notre Dame likes to grow the grass like 10 feet tall, and if it snows, that could slow the whole Alabama offensive game down. So, you know what? For these purposes, I'll go Notre Dame.
There you go. And so then the last game of that first round would be Texas at Penn State. So another South team going up to Happy Valley. 8-9 matchup.
I would take Texas.
There you go. So there you go. So now you bracket it on down to your Final Four, or your Final 8 then would become Oregon versus Utah in a whatever bowl game that would be. Oregon, Utah. That's an old Pac-12 game.
I was about to say, I think I like Oregon in that one.
Then you got Lane Kiffin against your Canes, buddy.
Oof. Why are you doing this to me?
Look at that. The Canes are in the Final 8, baby.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'd be happy to see it. I probably had to take Ole Miss.
Yeah. All right. Then you got this is where I hate you got the Alabama Georgia rematch. I mean, I don't think they're playing this season. Are they playing this season? Yeah, Georgia and Alabama.
They're playing this season.
They're not playing I don't have them playing in the SEC game, but I have them basically. This is where the chips fall. You'd have Alabama, Georgia. So you could probably go Georgia.
I like Kirby.
Kirby, and then you got Texas, Ohio State. So basically, your 4 is Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia, Ohio State.
Yeah, that would have been my 3 or 4 without doing this exercise.
No. That's what I'm saying. This is my pick.
I know. I'm just saying. Like,
is that 3? Is that 3 or 4 now?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So the way it works out is you end up picking the same teams, anyways.
Pretty much.
So that's basically what I've got: Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Ohio State. Those matchups would be. This is what sucks. This is where it's retarded. The way it breaks down.
Can't say that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. This is where it's stupid. Sorry for saying the R word. Oregon, Ohio State. You get 2 conference rematches again. And this is what sucks, and this is where it could happen.
This will be the third. Can you beat that
3
same
times?
team 3 times? It's
exactly.
one of the hardest things to do.
You might have already split one,
Yeah,
and then
possibly.
So So the way the bracket would break down, Oregon would play Ohio State again.
I still would have
and
Oregon.
Georgia.
I would have Georgia versus Ohio State.
There you go. So Georgia would play Ole Miss, and then you basically that's exactly what I have. I've got Georgia, Ohio State. Who's your national champion?
Man, I still. This is a tough one, man. I would love to see this game and hope that they're both fully healthy. Ooh. Hey, man, I got Kirby, big game Curb.
I'll go Ohio State just because I don't like Georgia, so I'll go different. But I
hate taking Georgia, but it's like, how can you not?
Well, like I say, you just went against completely what you just said like 5 minutes ago. Hey, we just keep picking the same teams to win. Why are we doing a podcast? Like, again, that's what happens. It's chalk.
That's what happens.
You ain't picking Kansas to be in that national championship game.
No.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like now
they have a really special year.
That's what I'm saying. Now, granted, can Kansas get matched up in one of these games where they can maybe pull an upset and then get to that second round?
Well, like I say, that first round is going to be intriguing just because going on the road, it definitely depends on if just say Miami. If you're Miami, you want Penn State to come to Hard Rock instead of you going up to Happy Valley,
right?
And vice versa, or Miami going out to or Miami, Clemson, Ole Miss, or Missouri, whatever Southeastern Conference team going all the way out to Eugene.
Yeah.
You don't want to make that flight out to Eugene and then the weather that time of the year.
Like we said, like Bama going up to Penn State or Notre Dame, having to go on the road in December, January, to play that first round playoff game.
That cold hit different. I don't care everybody be saying, oh, it's not. No, that cold hit different.
Yeah. So like I said, I think we already scratched the surface on it. I guess give me your 3 or 4 teams that are sneaky playoff teams that we didn't mention. You kind of said Virginia Tech. You said,
Arizona,
Iowa, Arizona.
Yeah. Those are three for me that I think that if, they could probably manage the schedule and get through. I mean, I guess don't sleep on the NC State. I guess everyone's loving as well. But other than that, I mean, I really don't see too many teams, especially like the Big 12. I don't. Yeah, I'll go with those 3 for right now. So Missouri, I can see Missouri being outside looking in as well.
Yeah, so you like Arizona over Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and K-State?
Yeah.
All right. It's weird. I don't know where to put Arizona in my because I love.
That's what I'm saying. I just put them, but I with a discllaimer. They had Jed Fish. They're winning.
Yeah.
But
no, for sure.
It's a wait and see. I guess I should say Arizona is kind of a wait and see for me.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out who. Obviously, I got Oklahoma State in the game.
Yeah.
Against Utah, but then I could very well easily see K-State or Iowa or even a Kansas being the number 2 team.
Mm-hmm.
So my other one is who I talked about. Oklahoma, I think, could be a sneaky team to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech, Tennessee, those are like kind of like the guys that are kind of like that 15 through 25 range.
I mean, it's as much as you don't want to hear this. I mean, Florida State too. We'll see right away. I just think for us it's a wait and see type thing with Florida State and how DJU looks and how their season starts off.
That's a great point because there you go. I was going to say, what's the top 10 team not to get in the playoff to bust out, and neither one of us have the Noles in the playoff.
Mm-mm. Like I say, I don't know. I don't want to bag on them because of last season, but 10-2, I still think they'll go 10-2. I just think they'll miss the playoff, which is weird to say. They're wait and see mode for me. This week will tell me a lot, and it may change. Are they good enough on defense? The one thing I definitely wanted to highlight about Florida State going into this Georgia Tech week and all season, I don't think we gave enough credit to Adam Fuller last season. Because you notice a lot of games where they kind of started off slow in the first half, they made great adjustments at halftime. I mean, go back to the LSU game. They made hell of adjustments, and it was like 2 totally different games. even the Boston College game, they made some adjustments and tweaks. I mean, I guess on the offensive side, they did as well. So, but does that mean you're a good coach? Which I'm not discrediting and saying they're not. Or did you just have guys, a lot of guys they lost that were good, that were able to make those quick adjustments on the fly when you go in the locker room and say, hey, we need to jam this guy. We need to get more pressure on this guy on the offensive line and this and that. And we need to make these adjustments, because you saw it every week, the adjustments they made going from first half to second half. So you got to give their coaching staff a credit on that. But going into this season, if they get in one of those type of games, will they be quick enough to make those adjustments in the second half?
Yeah, no, definitely. And then again, we like that defensive line, but still losing a Jared Verse and a Brandon Fisk, yeah, you're replacing them with like Farmer, and you bring back Peyton, a Daryl Jackson, transfer in.
Who's going to be the leader of that defense?
But still,
we knew who the leaders were last year.
Those are two basically first-round picks,
Yeah.
And those guys are beast. Not saying these next guys aren't, but again, they got to prove it. And then I looked at the depth chart that got released the other day for this week 0 game. Man, I don't care what anybody says. That receiving core, man, it's lacking, bro. You lose Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Jaheim Bell. Like Hakeem Williams better be that guy. And I don't even know.
That's the thing. They got to figure out who that guy is. Who's going to be that guy to step up?
Yeah, Benson's transferring over, but he never did anything where he was at. So Deuce Spawn's been there for 8 years.
I expect a nice rotation at running back.
I agree.
30, 40 carries this week.
That's what I'm saying.
If they throw the ball and they can't get anything going, you're going to see some heavy run sets.
No, for sure.
I still think they're going to beat Georgia Tech. I'm taking the under, but I don't sorry to hop to it, but might as well throw it in here with everything else. I would take Georgia Tech with the +12 and the under. I still think Florida State's going to win. I think they'll make enough adjustments in the second half to win.
Yeah, I think Florida State's a better team. I think they do get it done. I think they get a backdoor cover. I think it could be close and be tight for a while and be like, man, what is going on? The whole, DJU, he could come light it up or he could struggle.
Yeah.
And then
you're going to Ireland.
Yeah, no, all those intangibles we threw in there, the logistics of travel and all that stuff, it's going to be, both teams have to do it. But I'll be interested to see
who's that guy.
It's just that week 0 game, man. It's just your first game.
Yeah.
You always, when you end up, it used to be where these teams would like back in the day when we were younger, that week 1 game would be a straight cupcake for all of our teams.
It'd be rare to see.
You guys are playing BCC. We're playing, Central Michigan.
It was rare to see, like when Florida State would play USC here in Jacksonville.
Right. Exactly.
Or Florida State would play somebody else here in Jacksonville.
Right. Like Florida, Miami. That doesn't happen.
It was rare that you saw a week 1 matchup where you're like, ooh, I can't wait for that.
And it's not even that Georgia Tech's like, ooh, but it's just like this they ain't playing BCC. They're not playing Samford.
I just
they're not playing Jacksonville State.
It's just all the change. If it was last year's team coming back and going into week 0 this year, there's no way in hell we would say they're not covering.
Right.
Either point. I mean,
there's too many unknowns of replacements.
Yep.
So it's like, again, that's where it's like, I feel like the game's going to, I feel like it's going to start slow. It's going to be kind of like tight.
I agree.
It's going to be tight.
And then how's that field over there?
Right.
I'm not sure. A soccer stadium.
I feel like it's always wet over there. Like it just looks wet.
And then can those guys get their grip? The field is always an issue over there every year.
Yeah, I remember that. What was it? Who was it that played a couple of years ago?
Probably Notre Dame, Wisconsin.
I remember the Northwestern versus
Notre Dame. Sorry, Notre Dame.
Was that last year?
I think they played like 2 years in a row or something like that.
I feel like the field sucked.
It's not grown for 300-pound men.
Right.
It's more for soccer players, not 300-pound men pushing each other around. It's like it's really thin. It's that soccer thin where they want to be fast and running. It's like I say, the grip. It's going to be interesting to see the grip, how many times guys change their cleats out. Does it rain? It's in Ireland, so it may rain. And so if you see them taking 400 pairs of shoes on the sideline, and you seeing guys, I mean, normally they get out there a day or two before, but that's still not game speed. It's just jogging around and trying to make your cuts and whatnot. But then during the game, you could see guys changing out cleats 2 or 3 times, possibly.
Yeah. What sucks is I wish the game wasn't at noon.
Yeah.
I know it's obviously for travel and overseas purposes. That's
I mean, that's an 8 o'clock game over there.
Right. Exactly. That's what it just, I'd rather watch that game at nighttime, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Watch it at noon, but there's not, the other games are not very sexy.
It's week 0.
It's at least there'll be college football that counts
Yeah.
on the schedule, to appetize us for, week 1 the following week. But yeah, I still feel like Florida State, is the better team. I feel like they got the better players, the better personnel. Norvell's doing a great job. It's just one of those games where it's just like you keep listening to people talk about how sneaky it could be and like what happens if Georgia Tech does this or whatever, so let's just let it play out.
Let it play out. Exactly.
What if DJU lights it up for 300-400 yards and we're like, shit, never mind.
Might change everything.
DJU is lighting it up.
Yeah.
Oh, they do have some receivers, you know what I'm saying? So like,
it's a bunch of unknowns.
Let me see it happen. And then, you go on from there. Like that's the whole thing about all of this. We're trying to predict what's going to happen in January. And, and there's too many unknowns. There's too many elements. There's too many injuries that could occur. There's too many this. There's too many that. It's just fun to try to forecast it and see, how close you were, how smart or how dumb you are.
Speaking of fun, I got one for you. October 12th, buddy. October 12th is how do they say it? The most, I think not, the word is not requested, but the most, the wedding day. Yeah. However you say it. Yeah. So my question is to you.
I ain't going.
I can't say anybody. If I say anybody, I know you're not going.
Oh yeah.
If your
brother, like
your brother or Katie's brother or sister are getting married on October 12th, are you going to the wedding? And if you are, what lengths of watching college football are you going to?
You know me. If that was the case, and if it was anybody, that's a hard no. It's a hard pass. But if it's a family, if you were getting married,
so
I know you wouldn't on that day.
Hold on.
I got some parameters for this.
Hold on.
I got parameters.
So here we go. Here's the slate. We got Ohio State. No, for the listeners, I know
it's juicy, baby. It's juicy.
So Ohio State, Oregon, Ole Miss, LSU,
let Mignon,
Penn State, USC. You got your Gators in Knoxville, K-State, Colorado, UW at Iowa, OU, Texas, and South Carolina, Bama. I think I missed a couple, but that's the gist of week 7.
Yeah, no, that is appetizing. Here's the deal. Here's the parameters to this wedding. If I have to go, which if it was somebody getting married in the family, if it was my brother, obviously David wouldn't pick that date anyways either because we're not dumb. We're not, But if Nora was to get remarried, and I had to go to her wedding, and it was October the 12th. We have this problem with freaking birthdays. Like that's like Logan and Mason are like born on that time. Yeah. It's like I'm not going to that birthday party. Sorry. But a wedding, okay. Bottom line is we got to have TVs. Like there better be TVs.
Let me help you out at the reception. You're meaning at the reception.
Exactly.
Not at the actual
the ceremony part.
I do, yeah.
The ceremony part we'll figure out, maybe I'll have my phone on me. But the great part about technology in the ESPN app or the YouTube.
But
TV
if you're
app,
if you're in the wedding?
If I'm in the wedding, I'm gonna have to get like an earbud in the right side of the ear and put on whatever game's on. No, but seriously, the reception, I'm bringing 2 TVs in there and I'll set it up. It's gonna be somewhere in the corner, and you can find me there. Everybody else can be dancing and doing whatever. Just give me my drinks and my plate, and I'll be over there.
Flip side. How about this? For some wild reason, Haiti gets the venue of all venues that she wanted to get married at. And you're like, I guess I got to do it. And just for some reason, me, Ricky, Jakari, and a couple other people, and DH are like, buddy, we ain't coming. How would you feel?
What am I renewing my vows? Is that what you're saying?
However you want to look at it.
Well, obviously,
several of your friends are like, "Hey, Sponge, that's Gators, Tennessee, and Knoxville."
Yeah, obviously, Haiti would never do that.
Of course, she wouldn't. But we're playing a hypothetical. We're playing a hypothetical here because it's been a hot topic the last week or so. It's been funny to hear what people have said.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily expect you guys to come, or I'd be like, guys, come. I'd be like, guys, no, here's the deal. If this was to happen,
I know like, you will have it TV'd out. You would have it TV'd
I was
out.
Like, it's gonna be bar central. It's gonna be like we're at a bar, kind of like how we did the New Year's Eve wedding, baby. It's gonna be a party in here. We're gonna have the ESPN zone going. Like, let's party. Like, you're gonna come over to the house to watch the game anyways. So now, guess what? Now I got 8 TVs in here.
It's like I wanted to ask you this question so bad, but I already knew what the answers were going to be.
Exactly. You already knew I had a response for all of
it. It was like the funniest one was years ago. We were sitting at work and Berg goes, man, I got to go to this wedding on this day. And he wasn't thinking. I'm looking at him like, Steve, you know what day that is? He goes, nah, I've been busy. I hadn't even really looked at it. I was like, who gets married on Super Bowl Sunday? And he just looked at me. He goes, I'm not going. Straight up, he goes, I don't care. I'm not going. Who gets married? It just turned into a long, who gets married on Super Bowl Sunday? Yeah, he's like, crazy. I am not going. Yeah, I no one I knew.
Okay.
Yeah, it was hilarious. But yeah, it was just something I wanted to throw in there. Just
like I say, I saw where the wedding website basically had the most requested 2024 spot was that Saturday.
That's crazy.
Like here's the thing: people love fall weddings. Non-football fans, non-college football fans.
Well, I don't think that's totally true because I know enough people to know that. Just say they're Florida fans. They don't give a care about Miami, Florida State. They don't care about, there's 5 top 20 matchups today.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The Gators are playing Georgia Southern at noon. So we're going to do our wedding at 3:30, 4 o'clock or whatever. And it's just like.
No, I've seen that happen. And like I said, that's the other thing
I've seen people get married on Florida, Georgia.
There's not. Here's the deal, bro. Here's the deal. Enough of the people that we know are not college football fans like we are. Yeah. They are their team specific fans. They're going to watch their team play, and they'll dabble in watching some other games, but they're not like us. They ain't like us.
They're not going to do the noon to midnight.
Exactly. They're not like us, and so
they're not staying up for the Hawaii game.
No. Exactly. They're not.
Or the Colorado State game that ends at 2 a.m.
Exactly. So like that is where somebody will have a wedding or go do something. Like here's one for you. Guess what? I got on a College Game Day Saturday, like Haiti talking about wanting to do something like for her birthday. I got her Alanis Morissette tickets. She's gonna be at Daly's place. Like she was like mentioning this like months ago, like, oh my God, I want to go see Alanis Morissette. I want to go see Alanis Morissette. I want to go see. I'm like, she loves Alanis Morissette. So I'm like, all right, so let me pull up the Ticketmaster schedule. So I pull it up. It's a Saturday in the fall.
You're probably one of the only people I know that would correlate. Hold on, what weekend are we talking about?
No, I was already gonna have to.
I know.
I was already gonna have to do these tickets because I knew that she really wanted to do this.
Are you going?
So I'm like, yeah, I'm going. So I'm like, damn, I was like, what does that Saturday look like?
I didn't even know.
I didn't even know what was I going to be missing a game? But I'm like, I've gotten to the point now is where like my relationship with my wife is important, so it's like missing the nightcap of
Hold on. Now
Notre Dame.
Now it is.
I mean, when we're younger and I'm watching college football, hey, we work our way around it. Again, 9 times out of 10, if I have to go somewhere, I'm going to have the game on there or I'm going to have my phone out watching the game and, all that stuff. So that particular week, let me pull up the schedule because I was like, okay, let's see what I'm going to be missing that day. And I was like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to tough it out. I'm hoping it's not like a big weekend. It's basically September 21st weekend. And obviously the concert is not until.
Oh, I thought it was this weekend. My bad.
No. Hell, I'd be like, yeah, this weekend would be perfect. Hell, I'm not even going to be able to watch Florida State much because we're taking Cruz to the water park on Saturday. So
Yeah.
I'll catch it on my phone or DVR it, but it's not like I have to watch Florida State and Georgia Tech. No, it's not. I wish it was this weekend. Then we can go ahead and get it over with and get it knocked out.
Yeah.
No, basically that schedule is. Let me pull it up.
Was that like week 3?
It's no, it's week 4. It's week 4.
Utah, OK State, NC State, Clemson, Tennessee, OU.
So they don't have the nightcap. I don't even think they don't have it scheduled out
yet. No.
Yeah, no. It's not because that's still a couple weeks away. That'll probably get scheduled out this week.
Who do y'all play?
I think we play Mississippi State.
I mean, I think it'd probably be different since. Well,
yeah. But we play at noon.
Yeah.
So again, I'll be able to watch my team play, which is the most important game. Yeah. And then we don't go out. The concert's not until the evening time at Daly's place. So I'm like, all right, so I'm going to be able to watch the Gators play. It's not, but even with Florida playing Mississippi State and they were playing at 7 p.m. and it was like the same time, I'd be like, well, I'm just going to this concert. It is what it is.
Yeah. You've grown.
Exactly. But the thing about it is,
what am I going to go? You weren't going.
Yeah. What am I going to miss?
You would have tried to bribe one of her friends to go with her.
Yeah, so maybe so. The games that will probably be the evening games, the Tennessee, Oklahoma, Utah, Oklahoma State, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, those are your 3 big games. So, again, sure, I'd like to watch those games, but I don't have to watch.
You can rewatch them later.
Exactly. So, which I'll end up record. Like who knows? One of those games might be a 3:30 game, and I'll be able to catch most of it.
Right.
So
it was just something I wanted to throw in there.
Yeah. So no, that's what I'm saying. So there's times when you gotta prioritize.
ain't that true?
No, but like I say, what would suck is if that Alanis Morissette concert was on October the 12th.
Yeah.
And I'd be like,
you guys would have a serious heart to heart.
I'm like, the tickets were sold out, Haiti.
She would have went on Ticketmaster and found
right. You'd be like,
yeah.
I'd be like, you see how much these tickets cost? You want to spend that? So, those tickets were those were pricey tickets, dude.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Before we get out of here, anything you're looking forward to this season? Anything noteworthy you're looking for? And anything like for me, like I already said it, seeing Ken Iowa score points. Another one, year 2 in Colorado for Prime, with Phil Lodeholt coming in as the offensive line coach. Help anything
Warren
like
Sapp.
that.
Warren Sapp. Coach
Warren Sapp getting elevated to on-field coach now.
Yeah. Obviously, I want the Gators to have a good year, optimistically speaking, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens with Billy. I saw the stats today. I meant to bring that up, or they have the odds. Who tweeted that out this morning? The odds of first coach to get fired, number 1 is Billy Napier at 4-1. I just know that.
I mean, I don't think that's any secret to anyone that pays
attention. Mario. I think Mario was 6-1. He was like the third guy. I think it was Sam. I think Sam Pittman was second.
But to be honest with you, I don't see them investing the kind of money they've been investing down in Coral Gate, unless it's just a complete dumpster fire. Even if they lose to Florida and just say lose to B-Tech and they're close losses and the product doesn't look as bad throughout the season, I just don't see them firing Mario at right away in year 3. Like I say, you just don't give out $80 million unless you're Texas A&M because you got oil money, and just getting rid of a guy that fast. Like I say, they've invested so much money in some facilities and coaching, the staff and NIL and all of that. I just don't see it right away unless it's a complete dumpster fire. It would have to take someone with a lot of money to come out and say, you know what, enough's enough. But you better have a guy lined up. And the thing is, it's easier, in my opinion, it's easier to get a coach at the University of Florida than it will be to the University of Miami, just because it comes down to money and resources. It just is, it is what it is. When you know
Yeah.
you're getting $80+ million from your conference versus 45, 50 from your conference, and you don't have to go the private donor route to get money. And then the Bull Gators are willing to throw in money like that. I just don't see them. He's on the hot seat, but I just don't see them getting rid of it unless it's
Yeah,
just a complete mess.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening either. I mean, obviously, hell, I've got him in the playoffs, so if he makes it the
Yeah,
playoff, he's definitely not getting fired.
yeah,
Yeah, just as far as it'll be interesting to see, the realignment of the new teams and the new conferences.
yep.
I think Colorado does struggle. I don't think they're going to win more games than they
But
won last year.
hey,
But I just
we won against North Dakota State.
I've got
Hey,
them. I've got them getting upset that game.
hey, I don't know if North Dakota State could cover their wide receivers,
Right.
but if they can't protect Shador, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. They're going to be on his ass. But
Yeah.
again, it'll be interesting to see if that offensive line's gotten better. If they can protect and throw it. So, like I say, those are definitely. I'm just glad that we have the 12 team because I think it's going to be fun.
Well,
I mean that means there's a lot more teams that we're talking about.
yep.
In late November to be like, man, this team's going to make the playoff.
But then a lot of people complaining, saying that, oh, there's more spots. But yeah, that's going to up the ante, because before, if you were sitting at 10, 11, 12 in the last couple of years, you're like, man, we need chaos just to happen to even just get lucky to get to 4. But even then, if Georgia, because whatever the SEC bias, if Georgia, Alabama, or any of those teams were sitting with 0 losses or 1 loss, and there's like, just say 3 teams in the SEC that only had no losses or 1 loss, you're like, boy, they could take up 3 spots just between those 3 teams. And if you're an ACC team sitting at 10, 11, 12, or you're Penn State for the last couple of years, you're like, boy, we probably can't even get in. But now, people are like, oh, it's going to be watered down. I don't think so. I think teams still got a lot to play for.
No, definitely got a lot to play for. I think what's going to happen is it's still going to get settled on the field where the better teams win. And that's what we did on the picks. Like when it comes down to it, you're going to play some extra games. And you're going to have to get an extra week to get to it, or 2 weeks. But I still feel like when it comes down to brass tacks, it's going to be hard for you to tell me that one of those teams kind of in that 11-12 range, like if Kansas got in there and had to play Georgia or Ohio State, I'm not picking them, So you're going to pick the Georgias and the Ohio States. Now, granted, would we love to see an upset? Sure. That's what's going to make it great. Like let a team be, let's see, look at my bracket here. Let the 11th seed Clemson team, who everybody kind of slept on, let them all of a sudden get hot and all of a sudden win 2 games. And then the next thing you know, they're in the Final Four and, now they're in the national championship. Like, that's where a team like that.
Neither one of us are real big Clemson fans, but you can't throw out Dabo. I mean, he's still a hell of a coach. He gets on my nerves, but he's still a hell of a coach.
This is going to be a big year for him, I think. Because there's been so much negative talk around Clemson and his style of not going to the portal, just going with recruits, and just this is who we got. This is our team. There's been such negative buzz.
Well, now you've got about not wanting to pay players either,
right? The NIL stuff, all that stuff. So this. He needs to get in the playoff. He needs to be in that ACC championship game. He needs to have an upset showing against Georgia week 1. Don't let Clemson get the doors blown off next week, or it's going to be panic hell in Clemson, South Carolina. So
he might end up on that list before you know it.
He probably is on the list somewhere, but he's probably on the bottom half of it. I think Deion was like
job's pretty
25-1. Yeah. I mean, hell, he's won national titles. He's been to national, we have such, you have such recency, like you forget so quick. Prisoner of the moment, where all you think about is right now and last year. And it's like, dude, Clemson has been one of the top programs in the last 5 years.
Even after they lost to Florida State, after the Miami game, they kind of turned it around and they start looking better at the end of last season.
Right.
They kind of, I mean, they weren't Clemson of like Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence,
No,
but they righted the ship a little bit. They were figuring things out, and they got it going. And I think, didn't they win their bowl game? I think they won their bowl game.
I believe so. Like what sucked for them was that week 1 loss to Duke. Like
Yeah.
it just kind of set them. It just derailed them.
Well, that was just
And
because
then
they couldn't do anything. They kept turning
yeah,
the ball over in the red zone.
they had all those fumbles and
Klubnik had like what 3 or 4 fumbles inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, they beat Kentucky in the awesome Gator Bowl game. That was an awesome game.
You didn't watch.
No, that was a hell of a game.
Yeah.
You don't remember that game? It was like they were up and then
hey man,
it was like a shootout. It was like 30.
I remember the Olympics.
No, that game that was actually a really good bowl game. They were up like going into the fourth quarter. It was like a 21-16 game. Kentucky was up, and it was literally like 7 scores in that fourth quarter.
Okay, I do remember now.
It was like back and forth. It was like I think it was like a field goal, 2 touchdowns scored in the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, because it was one of those like, where the hell has this Clemson offense been all year?
Here you go. 7 minutes to go in the game. Clemson kicked the field goal to be down 21-19. Then they scored. They must have got a turnover quickly because they scored literally 15 seconds later to take the lead 27-21. And then 3 plays later, Kentucky scored a touchdown to take the lead 28-27. Then Clemson scored in 4 plays to take the lead 30-28. Then Kentucky scored again. It was like 3 plays. Like literally looking at this play chart, it's like 1 play, 3 play, 4 plays, 3 plays. And then basically Clemson went on a 12-play, 70-yard drive, 2 minutes to ice it. So, yeah, that was I remember that game was wild, but they won their bowl game. Here's the craziest part, too. You don't blow that first week 1 game. They were in it to win it against the Noles, man. Remember they had the rookie kicker, the walk-on, missed the kick. Or they would have beat Florida State. Instead, they have to go to overtime. They lose that game.
Well, even the Miami game, he made a bad read, and he pulled the ball and went to the left, and there was no run. There was no one out there other than him and the linebacker, and the linebacker made a play.
Yeah, you lose that game 28-20 in double overtime, and then the very next week they lost by a touchdown at NC State. So that was their losses. So again, for as much as we hate on Clemson, a couple plays here or there, they could have been 10-2. But like I said, that's why I think they're the team that's going to be. I think it's going to be the Canes, Clemson, and Florida State for the ACC. Unless one of these wild card teams like a Virginia Tech come out of nowhere. But I'll go with the chalk and the name brands right now.
Yeah. What do you think about the new rules this year? The devices on helmet communication devices, tablets on the sideline, 2-minute warning.
I think all that's good. I think why not have that technology? The NFL has it. You don't need the damn signals that Connor Stallions can steal.
I was about to say, but how long before you're on the road and a team's trying to tap into your sideline equipment?
No, that definitely could happen too.
It's gonna happen. So, it happens in the NFL.
Yeah. So, no, I agree. So you're gonna have to still be able to signal, and you're gonna have to be able to communicate in some sort of fashion. So, I am looking forward to the Connor Stallions documentary.
Does it help you in Happy Valley when your ears are ringing and you can't hear the call? Like, how do you change? Like, what are your safety precautions? Just saying, like you say, you're in an environment where it's super loud and the quarterback can't hear.
You go back to what you do.
Signals. Yeah, of course. But I could see some teams being too reliant on those devices and whatnot.
Right.
And like Les Miles with the little earpiece, and you're like, dude, you're playing in SEC. How are you planning on hearing your coaches?
Yeah. No, like I say, I like the 2-minute warning. I think that's good. The extra break. Like I say, I think I'm ready. I'm just ready for it to kick off, man. I'm ready to watch some ball
here before you know it.
Yeah. Like I say, I got some high school games this Friday night. You got Florida State Saturday, and then it's game week, baby.
Yep.
And then we got some NFL rolling in last preseason week. So, yeah, it's football is in full swing until February. Let's do it.
That's nuts. I'm sure there's so many wives around the country so happy.
Oh, yeah. Elated.
They're like, Well, let me just block off every Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for the next 5 months.
Yep. All right, my brother. It was good.
All right, man.
Week 0. Good breakdown of the playoff predictions. Who's going to be there? Who's going to not? Shout out to if you hung on for this hour and 90-minute podcast with us. Like I said, it was a lot to get into. It was a lot to dive into, a lot to break down. So, like I say, college football is here, and we appreciate the listeners.
Like,
Ricky,
subscribe, share.
Go Noles, Ricky. Go Noles, buddy. Don't worry. I'm going to do a lot of shit talking on your Noles in a couple weeks, buddy. Maybe even next week. So good luck to y'all.
I mean, they play this week.
That's what I'm saying. So I've already said it's going to be a tight game. I think they're going to win, but don't let them be in a tight game and something bad happen.
You're gonna go ham next week on the pod.
Scorched earth, baby. Nah.
Oh,
but
man.
yeah, no, it was good stuff, my brother. And we'll like I say, we'll be
Yes,
back
sir.
at it next week with week 1, where we'll be arch enemies for the week for 7 days, starting on Sunday.
We probably don't need to talk to each other.
I don't want to talk to you except for the day we do the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All right, homie. It was good rap.
Right,
College football, talking ball. We'll holler at y'all. Appreciate all y'all.
Later.
Peace.